So I went to all of the Cherry Creek schools so far. Like I went through the whole entire system, through Fox Hollow, Liberty, and Grandview. Done it all, I guess, 17 years? No, yeah, 17 years now. Cherry Creek schools, that's crazy. I took 2 years of engineering and architecture classes here at Grandview. I played volleyball club and for Grandview. I'm in NHS, FBLA, and I'm in student leadership. I've been a lifeguard for 2 years, going on 3 now, and then college-wise, don't know yet, we're gonna get there, we'll decide. And then as we go on, first thing, project inspiration. So starting off the project, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to do something architecture related, but I didn't know what it was gonna be, what it was gonna be about. And on the first day of class, Cone started, it was like, okay, think of something that you interact with every day that doesn't work very well and that you can try and do better. And that's not to say that Grandview doesn't work great, but after 4 years, it definitely has its quirks and piece of it could be better. So I thought, you know what, why not, and I'll go for it. So this is something that hung over my head for both years in the engineering and architecture classes, and it kind of helped me spur my project as well, because it was just right there, and I was like, oh, here we go. And I thought it's kind of a cool picture, and you'll see it a little bit later for the inspiration for the landscape plan on the ground. So project description, to design and build a model of the school with 21st century design concerns in mind, whether that be security, lighting, energy efficiency, things like that, where maybe when the school was built in the 90s, it wasn't as big of an important aspect, but today those are very important and important pieces of what designing a school should be. So beginning with that, we'll go talk about my advisory committee. So we have Mr. Chafee. He is a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. He's a lead accredited professional in building design and construction, and is principal of Fentress Architects, and he has over 30 plus years in the architecture industry. And then Joey Bradford, who also did this class 4 years ago now, and is a senior at CU Boulder in the architecture program, and offers insight into what it's like to be a student in an architecture program. And then support advisors, we have enrollment parents for financial and emotional support. Thanks, guys. Sorry, not the best at keeping with projects, and I need money from you guys. And then Alyssa Wood for spell check and Revit help. She's also doing an architecture project, so it's nice to have someone else just look at the computer when I couldn't do it anymore, and it was just not agreeing with me. And then Mr. Ridland for giving me Revit tutorials and just general Revit help and any questions I had. Go along here. So my project objectives was I want to have a better understanding of Revit and how to use it and what it's like to use it as an architect versus just as a student. I want to get better at building models and adding details to them, which I'll talk about a little bit later with the model. And then I want to ensure that architecture is what I want to do in college. Still don't know yet. Getting there. And then I want to build a successful design and model. And she's here. She made it, but we'll see how successful it is. And then I want to be an overall better architectural designer and be better at something I think I like to do. Get on here. So we're talking about my company logo. When starting it, I taken graphic design and we had to build a logo, and I thought, why not pair it with this class? So I started off thinking I should give inspiration to where we're located. So that's why the mountains are in the back. And then another important element was what kind of company this is. So the B, you will see it has little lines in here, and those represent like the blueprint texture to imply that we are an architecture company and we build things. And then going with colors, the red is for youth and boldness, because our projects are exciting and new, and you would want to hire us to build what you want to do. And then the gray and blue both imply trust and stability and calmness, so you know that whatever project we have been assigned to do, we will fulfill it and you will get what you want. And then the typeface is Futura, which is a font that's used by multiple architecture firms, and it's clean. You can see there's very little serifs, not at all actually, and it's just nice looking, so I included that there. And then the first step of the project was beginning with sketches. So in each of these sketches, you can see one of my big focuses was a giant area for like a commons, because that's a big part of Grandview, and I know a lot of people may or may not sit there, but we all know that it's a big part of what it means to go to school here. And I also took inspiration from a place that I hold dear, which is Disneyland, which uses a hub and spoke model, where you can think about it as this is the center of the wheel and there's spokes radiating off. So you start here and you go back and you keep coming back to the center, because that's where the heart of the school is. And And that was really important because I thought, okay, it's clear to you where you should be going, where things are, where you should be hanging out, places where you have time to just be a student. And that was a big focus of mine. But then I started researching and things changed a little bit. So one of the first surprise books actually are helpful is this book, Blueprint for Tomorrow, where it spoke about important pieces of what it means to design a school. And one of those was teacher offices, which I know some of us may go all the time or never go, but if you've ever been, it's kind of small, it's not the greatest, but we should probably begin more of that. And this book talks about how teacher offices should be homey, yet places where you should be able to work. Kids should be invited to come in, but teachers can still have privacy and do what they need to do. And there needs to be storage and workplaces and a whole bunch of room to inspire learning versus hindering. Another important element was the library, and our library is ever changing. If you've been here for, I guess if you're a senior now, you've known that our library has changed multiple times. And print media is kind of dying, which is sad, but it's still an important element. You still need to have those resources in a library. But you also need to have a whole bunch of new resources like iPads, computers, places for peer tutoring, a whole bunch of learning happens in a library versus a place where you just hang out. It should be emphasized as a place where you can learn and be a great student while also not being forced to crack open a book if that's not your favorite thing. And then another important piece of this book and research taught me was cafeteria design. So cafeteria, it should just be a generic, like tiny seats and like what you've had since elementary school or kindergarten. It should be open, airy, it should have a variety of seatings, maybe some booths or some stools, things like that. Those are all important to like have a great lunch, and I guess it's kind of hard to think about when you're eating. It's more about the food, but the environment you want to eat in. You don't want to eat in like a shack. You want to eat in a nice, comfy restaurant. Like that's the kind of mood that a cafeteria should inspire. It shouldn't be just a drab kind of place. And then the last portion is the effectiveness of the school. So if we think of a school not only as a school, but a building for a community, it should be able to have multiple uses. It should have tons of flexibility, and on the inside, it should look nice. It should be effective enough that it makes you want to do the thing that you're trying to do and doesn't deter you from being inside. And then the next piece of research I also used, which is a surprise in their book, was the language of school design, where it talks about a finger plan. So I talked about the hub and spoke design first, and this is another piece of that. So think of it as, this is like all my fingers around the palm of my hand. In a finger plan, you're all centered around here. This is still your common area, but instead of it being a complete hub and spoke all the way around, you branch out along your fingers and go to where you need to go and come back. This is essentially what I used for this design of the school because I thought it was clearer and it emphasized a main hallway versus just a giant circle. And I thought maybe that might deter, kind of seem like a UFO instead of a school. And then another important piece was the main entry. So a main entry should have a signature element and be inspiring and make you want to come in versus just kind of being off to the side. So that was another important piece I took to heart because I knew that I wanted a signature element of the school to like stand out when you walk up and be an important part of what you're doing. And then the second to last one is art integration. So we walk around Grandview, we can see that art is everywhere. You can see old art, new art, it's all everywhere. And that's an important part of what it means to be a student and be in an environment like this. And another piece is, we all know that choir sings up there during, like thoroughly any period that they want. And it's really cool. Those impromptu performances are an important part of what it means to be in theater arts or in choir or anything like that. So big spaces like that where people can watch and listen to them are also very important. And lastly, transparency. This is a big thing between all the resources in modern schools is instead of trying to lock and close people out, they want everything to be open. Brand new. The new CCIC building, it has classrooms with no doors and no walls. Things like that are very important, and it shows that this is a place where you can hang out and do what you need to do and want to be there versus being locked in a tiny room for eight hours a day. So as I continued my research, I also learned from my advisors that I should choose a location before I continue building, because the location can sometimes affect what the design looks like. So after looking around a little bit, I decided that the best place for this would be right here on the eastern part of the district. So as we know, out by CT, there's tons of houses, tons of new growth, and it's just going to keep growing. And because of that, we're going to need a new high school over there at some point. Whether it be in 10 years, 20 years, so on, it's going to be necessary. So I thought, okay, why not plan ahead and just do it now? So this was the site I chose down here in the little red rectangle, and hasn't been bought yet. It's pretty flat, kind of in the middle of nowhere, but that's perfect because the middle of nowhere will turn into the middle of somewhere eventually. So that changed as I went along on the research. I turned to this final sketch and these sketches, and as you can see, I have still a hand is like a finger plan, where this is the center of the school, this main hallway, the main artery, and then this is a giant commons area, which I want to serve as part of the school. On either side, there's a cafeteria, and this cafeteria is on the side of my head, and the library where people can hang out and eat and do what they need to do. But at the same time, it's open to all these classrooms, and there's windows overlooking, and it gives you a very open and airy environment. So here's my first try at a floor plan for that sketch. You can see that the north is up here and south's down here, and everything's kind of clumped on this end, and none of the classrooms are really done. But it was my first try, and that's what it looks like rendered, and it's almost there. And then as I turn along, I decided that it needed to be mirrored because on the site, there's a road, I'm envisioning a road running from this way to this way, and I wanted to make it the best entrance looking from the road. And at the same time, all the fields are located in this side, so I wouldn't want all the kids from PE having to walk 10 million miles to get to a fun run with like any of the teachers, you know. And all the sports teams at the same time be able to walk out and have locker rooms nearby. And then, as we can see here in this final design, this is the cafeteria, and this is the library. The cafeteria has a curved wall, similar to Grandview's, to emphasize the line not pouring out into this like cafeteria seating area, but kind of curving around so that way there's room for people to stand in line and eat at the same time. And then we got a set of main stairs in the main hallway, and you can see pillars lining it to help set up the second level where we have two different walkways suspended above, so that way you can look down and still connect to the upper level. And on this end, the pool is clumped away from theater, and I moved it to this end because it has windows on the outside, and I wanted to emphasize that all the way through, starts with windows, and the end ends with windows. So it's just a long hallway of light, and you can, it's curved at the same time, so that way you can't see the end of the hallway. Instead of like Grandview where you look and it's kind of sad at the other end because it's like I have to walk all the way over there. When you're going here, it makes the natural curve makes you keep walking because you want to go what's at the other end. Even if you don't think so, that's the psychological impact of having curved walkways and things like that. So as we go through, you can see the renderings. This is what the program Revit looks like when it renders, and it does a pretty okay job, but it's not great. And I was able to get an educational license for Enscape, which is this program here, and it adds a lot more natural light, and you can see clouds, and it makes a lot of details with windows, and it helped better visualize what this project would look like. So here's a walkthrough. I'm going to apologize in advance because it's kind of slow, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Here. And starts overhead, and you can see, let's see if it's going, I promise. It's getting there. And the camera angle is going to pan around here, and we're going to go through the main entrance. They didn't really like to go through the doors, so we're going to pass through them instead of the doors actually opening. So I apologize for that. So you can see we're going to go through the main entrance here. You can see the nice open windows and the awning and the signature main entrance. It's very large. When we go in, you can see the stairs to both the upper hallway and then the main artery here with the pillars. And then that would be one of the main classroom hallways with science classrooms, kind of like ours, lying at the bottom. And then we're going to see the library here, which is a giant open space, and windows all looking above and like the glass ceiling on top to emphasize the light and that it's a giant area environment. Then we're going to pass through a room here. I apologize for this. And we're going to see the commons area and the main stairs over there. And I also have said multiple times, I want it to be airy and very large, and you can see that this is a nice open area. The light is shining through and it's bright. It also helps with energy usage because you don't need as many lights during the day to make it this bright. And we're going to go through and we're going to see this is the cafeteria over here with the curved wall. And this is a giant more seating area for kids to hang out and to eat lunch. And we're going to pass by another academic hallway on this side and head towards activities. You can see that sometimes Revit and Enscape doesn't really want to agree with me, but we're getting there. It's still a work in progress, hopefully. if Cherry Creek School District would like this design. And we're going to pass through down here. See, so I'm going to magically go through the pillar, and we're going to head into the main gym over here, which will take a little detour going outside really quick. Apologize for this too. There we go. And there's the main gym. So it's very large, bigger than Grandview. It's about the size of CTs. We know that during assemblies, it's very hard to sit in there, and we want to emphasize giant environment and community and scope, whatever the mascot will be, which you'll see in a second. So that's the theme trying to go through here. And then those are more doors to the main gym. And as we go down, we can see the giant windows to this area, which serves as the pool. And we're going to pass by the aux gym too on the right side through these double doors. And it's going to kind of spin around, so give it a second. And a big part of this pool area is, I know Grandview's has a good amount of windows, but I felt like it'd be more important to have a nice large area space, because when you think of a pool, you think of summer and bright and happiness, and it might not be that way for the swimmers who are actually in there all the time, but hopefully having more light and making it open would try and help with that. And as we can see here, the shape of the theater is pretty similar to what Grandview's has, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I thought the Grandview design was pretty cool, and I thought the shape was different, and I was like, okay, I'm going to use it for mine. So now we're going to zoom out here, and we can see another overhead and how everything fits together. And I'm going to close it because it will take 10 minutes. So. Okay. So now we go to the model. Sorry about this. That's fine. Okay, so here I go to start building the model, and this was all during spring break, and I was slightly drugged up on my wisdom teeth removal, but I tried my best. I tried to make it work, and as you can see or down here, still a little blue, still rough in a couple places, but it helps visualize what the school would look like from far away and how all the elements interact, and how the glass windows on top serve as a pretty big important part of the school and help visually see where everything is. So we can see the progress here. So there's nothing, slightly less than nothing, and then there, it's getting bigger. And another important piece I want to talk about is this. This was my little cheat sheet to make sure I had all my dimensions right. So I accidentally printed out the wrong piece of paper during spring break, during the one day that I came in to see Mr. Combs and go into his class, and it made my dimensions very off. So on here, it's kind of hard to see, but it says 1 foot equals 1/45 of an inch. So, in terms of a school and all these dimensions, 45 feet is 15/16 of an inch. That was not the easiest to measure and do all this. So some of the angles and dimensions aren't great on this, but I made it work with what I had, and it's here. I made it. And then another thing that my advisors talked to me about during our mid-year meetings was having a site and landscape plan, because just having a 3D model is nice, but it doesn't help show what a school looks like. So I start here, and I just kind of photoshopped all these elements out. And thanks, Mr. Hagenworth, for helping me in all this, because I'm still not the greatest at art, but we're getting there. And I took the baseball fields and softball field from Eagle Crest, the soccer field from CT, the lacrosse field from Grandview, and these are both from Grandview, and the tennis courts from Eagle Crest. I took all of them because they were the nicest looking ones and were visually appealing and made sense in terms of what their shape was and not like weird. And then the parking lot, that was another big thing I haven't touched on because I didn't know how I was incorporated into this project. But I knew no matter what, I wanted to have it fixed for the Grandview parking lot because, let's be real, it sucks. It's awful. At 3:35, we're not moving. So I thought, okay, how can I make this better? And touching back on the Disney connection again, whenever I think of leaving a Disney park, it just takes less than 5 minutes. And I'm like, why is it so efficient? And it's because every single parking lot is all angled at 45-degree angles, and they're all facing one direction. So no matter what, it's only one-way parking. When you pull in, you don't have to do a full 90-degree turn. Nobody should be hitting each other. Should be no problems. Kids will probably try to figure out a way to make problems happen, but hopefully the design will help them. So as you can see, I kind of cut out this parking lot, and I had to copy and paste it to make it a square, and try to shade off little pieces, and as it goes along, I build each element. And then I decided, I should probably add some trees, because trees help make a design more aesthetically pleasing, and doesn't make it look like garbage. And so then in this picture, I also added a little bit of texture, trying to emphasize that I didn't do this in the computer, but even though I did, I wanted to make it look like I kind of hand drew it. It's not the most successful, but it helps try and add a little flair to the design. So coming back to this picture, the one that's hanging over my head for 2 years, it is my basis for the landscape design. And so it led me to this, where I added little labels to everything, just like this. You can see the teacher parking lot, carpool lane, bus loop, things like that to better help illustrate. And then this, which was at my table, and I can try and show here, is put like kind of similar to where this one, where it's on a piece of cardboard, and you can see it, it stands up, and it better illustrates what this would look like as a tangible high school and concept. Through, so here's the side map of where it's located. You can kind of see CT in the corner over there, and Blackstone Country Club. Currently there is nothing this side, but as I said before, something can always turn into somewhere, and you can see the school blown up, and 2 different entrances for the parking lots. So students and teachers never have to interact, so hopefully that stops the teachers from parking in the wrong parking lot, and students parking in the wrong one as well. And then every single one has multiple lanes to get out, so that way there's not one single lane to try and leave, and there should be no problems. Like I said, people might try to make problems, but hopefully there isn't. As we continue here, so I coincidentally, FBLA was a project that's almost exactly this, and it was designing a school logo named Mascot. So I took and I said, okay, this is great, I'll kind of snatch that and use it for this project as well, because why not use both and try to add another dimension to this. So I came up with the name Edgeway High School, which was inspired by the outward location of this on the edge of the district. And the acronym for this would be EWHS, which is different from Erie, Eagle Crest, or Evergreen High School. Try and keep it separate so people know where you're going. It's not like, oh, which EHS are you from? Like, it's 2 different ones. And then the color they chose were white, purple, and gray. White stands for safety and goodness. Try and imply that this is a nice place to be. Gray is balance and respect, same kind of deal. You want it to be a place where you can trust and you want to be there. And then purple stands for passion, fulfillment, creativity, wisdom, imagination. Try and inspire kids to do well. Don't know if the colors have that big of a difference, but hopefully those colors do. Then we go along here, see the logo, which is the Mascot and Logo. And our mascot is Champ the Elk, and we chose elk because it stands for unity and they travel in herds. And so we thought it would be like kind of a good message for all of us to be one community at Edgeway, and it stands for stamina as well, because I guess I'll go for a really long time and they live forever, apparently. So that's what it said elk stand for, so I took it, stamina, unity, and strength. And then they also symbolize endurance and patience because they're pretty majestic animals, they're pretty cool. And this turned into the logo, and you can see Edgeway in purple and gray and white. So project timeline. So I was very generous with my original timeline. So there's going to be a lot of red on here, and red stands for it didn't happen. So as we go through, we're doing pretty good in October, everything's doing great. And then November, I was supposed to start doing Revit tutorials. I did one, and I said, you know what, I really know Revit. I'm really good at this, and I'm really not. So that was probably a mistake, but I just kept plowing through. And as we go, we're still good, doing good. Just start transferring, job shadow, all of that. Site plan, different color, yellow. That means this got postponed. Site plan got postponed for a long time because I had a lot of other things to worry about, but I still did it, so that's exciting. And then red, started adding textures outside of school. Didn't happen. That's okay though. Kept working on Revit to get the basic school design into Revit to make sure I had a project. Here's where it all kind of came to a head. So, finished adding textures. Didn't happen. I kept working in place of the school into Revit. Finished adding details outside of the school. Didn't do that until the very end, so I had to wait for later. And then start mapping out a walkthrough. Didn't happen until the last week because it still wasn't finished. So I kept working in Revit and stairs. And me and Revit and stairs do not agree. And if you use Revit, you know that it hates you with stairs. And it took me a full class period to get the main stairs in. And I didn't touch them after that because I was worried it would break it and I'd have to start over again. So I hate stairs. And then I kept working on renders when I got back. And then tried to have a fly-through finished by mid-year presentations. Didn't happen, fly-through was not ready, but I did it later. And so I kept working on Revit, the curtain walls, which on the model would be the glass windows here, here, and here. Revit does not like those either, but I got them in there, they finished, and then mid-year presentations happened, that was all good. More red and yellow, very exciting. These did not happen either. I was like, I don't have time, and I'm not smart enough to figure those out yet, so that was a whole other ball game with electrical and plumbing. And then again, adding classroom walls, because I thought, okay, I have to have the building done. So those were added in January. And then stairs, more stairs, oh joy, to the classroom areas of the school. I finally got those in during the end of January. And then I also added pillars to the main avenue of the school, as you saw. I thought that was important to not only keep the second floor standing, but to add another element to the design. And then February, didn't do the model till spring break, so that had to wait. I did the landscape plan in map view instead, which is from here, and I showed earlier. That also was probably good to start that early because it took me a very long time. I'm not good at graphic design, but we'll get there. And then finished putting up the outer walls and close the building. Didn't really do that on either, but we almost did it. It was almost that time. I was like 2 weeks later, so we got there. And then the rest of February, we're good. All red and yellow, it's like, no, it's okay. February here, continue working on finishing roofs, had to wait for that, had to push it back a little bit. Adding details to the model, as you can see, it's not very details like grass and things, but as me and my advisors talked about it, we said that I needed to have at least a model show up, and they recommended doing a mass model, which is what this could be called, and you can see what the shape of the building looks like and how you can like visualize it, hold it up and hold it at different angles, but yet it's not the finished form because there's still more details to add. And then I didn't add anything to the inside of the school. Didn't have time for that because I was still adding walls to the school. So kind of important. I had to fix the classroom plan. I didn't like what I did, didn't like what I had. Didn't really make any sense, so I had to go back to that. And then complete final walkthrough by the end of that week. Push that back here. Work on presentation and practice was like 15th. But we got it here, we made it. And then presentation today. So roadblocks, number one, Revit. Me and Revit just don't get along, but I wouldn't have been able to do this project without Revit, so I can't get mad at it. Details, in Revit, I focused way too much on little things like windows and doors and things that I didn't need to focus on. Even though I knew I needed to focus on them, it just, when you do a digital model, it makes you want to just do everything and you think you have unlimited time, and it just didn't happen. And then research-wise, I was pretty confused. Turns out there's not a whole lot online. We just type in how to design a school. Not a whole lot there. So I had to actually go out of my way and find different places to find research. And it was not the easiest to talk about how do you design a school, because that's not really a popular thing. That's not really a thing that everybody does. So now we're at bibliography, and it's question time. So any questions?
Has the district told you anything?
No, but I did talk to Ms. Grumble at the start, and she was very excited about everything, and she helped a lot in terms of where to go from this and how to look at CCIC and what the district's moving towards, and how that affects what designs they would want in the possible future.
Just from your conversations, Mrs. Grumble, did you talk about why it's so hard to get a new high school built here?
So money is a big thing because it's very hard to, as other districts in the state know, it's very hard to pass bonds, and we're lucky enough to get bonds and things like that. But there's a whole entire development process behind the high school, such as there's committees of students in terms of what they want, what the district wants to see, what students want from a new school. What does the district want? And different architecture firms all have to compete to get the design that the district wants. There's a whole bunch of elements, and I know the CCIC building has been in development for forever, and to see that come to fruition is pretty awesome. But a project like this would probably take 10 years from start to finish for them to actually fully do it.
Other questions?
Other questions?
So you indicated one of your objectives was to learn about the practice of architecture. So I'm curious, what were your takeaways in terms of the skill set and the tools that are required, and just the overall impression about being an architect?
So luckily enough, I was able to go and actually do a job shadow and see what it's like to be an architect, not only from the head of an architecture firm, very close to the head, and from someone who's working on projects in between. And I thought it was cool to see how many different pieces play a part into just designing one building. So there's specific people for every single thing. One person might be plumbing, one person might be just windows, one person might be tiles, and I thought it was cool how every single person got to do like a little puzzle piece of a giant picture versus just like one person doing everything. I thought that was a really cool thing, is the collaboration in the architecture industry is so important to make these structures happen. And thank God they're really good at their jobs, or else we would live in more amazing places like here. So that's my takeaway. Any other questions? My favorite part, I think, was probably just sketching out different designs, because it was fun to think of how would I walk through this? How would a student see this? What different thing is this plan emphasizing? And that was like the very first step, which maybe I like it because it was the easiest, but it was definitely really fun to just think of, be creative, and what could I possibly do with the design overall. So.
Okay, well, thank you.